Welcome back, friends. Speaking of cozy, what's your cup of cozy today? So today, because we're filming early this morning, I'm actually drinking a latte from Starbucks. Stephanie, Ethan, what are you guys drinking?
Those that know me well, that I go to Starbucks all the time and usually get an iced coffee. Today I felt a little excited and I got a cold brew.
Nice.
With my vanilla sweet cream cold foam that I usually make at home, but got it today. And I had stars to spend, so why not?
Of course, yeah, right. It's like getting it for free, and you didn't pay all that money just to get the stars.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I also got a lavender oat milk latte. Gotta do the oat milk because I'm lactose intolerant.
Oof.
I don't really like lavender. I've tried lavender coffee, and it was too soft for me. I like the dark.
Because you can taste the coffee more.
No, I like the dark, dark roast.
No.
I'm good on the dark roast.
No, y'all remember when Young Living essential oils was like a thing?
Oh my god, yeah.
No.
Okay, so, well, she's living under a rock. Yeah. But they were such a big deal, and one of the big ones is lavender oil, and that's my mom and my aunt and my sister for a little while. They were all into the essential oils, and I got so burnt out on thieves and lavender that I was like, I can't do it anymore.
See, I can't do lavender essential oils. I really like the eucalyptus. It helps me kind of focus because of that strong smell, and so I do that a lot. Yeah.
Interesting. Aromatherapy. How did that end up on the podcast?
I don't know.
My fault, I guess. Talked about essential oils.
But today is a special day because we are doing our final episode at the Plot Twist.
Final episode, to be clear, of Onyx Storm.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, we're still here, guys. But yeah, it's super exciting. You can see, behind us here, it kind of looks like the Slytherin common room. But yes, this is at the Plot Twist romance book bar in Denton, Texas. We had reached out a couple weeks ago just to see if they'd allow us to record in their back room, and they so graciously accepted. Dawn, the owner here, graciously accepted when I reached out, and so now we're here, and it's super exciting because they just opened not too long ago, and we just started our podcast not too long ago, so it's kind of like we're starting at the same time, and now we're here and we're recording, and it's super nice, and we highly recommend anyone that listens to us, if you find yourself in Denton, Texas, to come on down because it's a great space.
Please.
Romance book reader, this is your vibe.
Yes. Honestly, it's the cutest little bookstore. I love it here. And I honestly cannot wait to go shopping after we're done with it.
Right. And those of you that are just romance, well, it is, but they also have every niche romance that you can think of. So your romantasy, right? Onyx Storm, Fourth Wing, the Empyrean series, that's all here. A Court of Thorns and Roses, even, One Dark Window. And some of it isn't even fantasy. Some of it's just regular romance. So they have every flavor of romance that you might like here.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to be here. Yeah.
It's super cool.
All right. We are so excited to dive into our final episode of Onyx Storm, where we will discuss chapters 61 through 66. If you didn't catch our first 10 episodes of Onyx Storm, go listen to it now, then come back and join us for this episode.
Right. So, of course, like always, we're going to give you guys a spoiler warning. If you're listening to this episode, we're assuming that you've finished Onyx Storm. So, if you haven't, please go ahead and finish the book because we are going to spoil everything in this episode.
Yeah, get on that.
But before we dive in, let's go ahead and do a quick recap of where we're at in the book so far. So, after Xaden's decision to allow civilians into Tyrandor, Navarre and Tyrandor are on the brink of war. Halden has stationed forces along the Tyrish border, and Xaden has cut off the supply of Palladium to Navarre. Violet is struggling even more with her runes training now that she doesn't have Indarna's delicate power. Terran's power is much more aggressive, and Quinn shows her a different way to handle it. But while she's struggling with runes, she's improving in her training with Felix. Her aim is getting better, and she can even split her strikes to hit multiple targets. Also, Violet can still dreamwalk, even without Indarna. She was able to recognize the next time she walked into one of Xaden's dreams, and became herself in his dream. She even spoke to the sage in Xaden's dream, and the sage told her, "It's simple, Dreamwalker. You come or she dies. But who is she?" Then Garrick showed up to Violet and Xaden's room in the middle of the night to deliver a chilling message from Theophany. She has Mira, and she tells Xaden to bring Violet and your brother, and they'll let Dreyfus stand. And by brother, she meant Jack. So they send Garrick to get him. And as they're strategizing, they realize that they have 3 objectives: retrieve Mira, defend Dreyfus, and protect the pass. But they don't have nearly enough resources or riders to accomplish all 3. So Brennan asks Violet to choose an objective, and she decides to kill Theophany. As they're riding out to Dreyfus, Violet notices Malvik and Eric flying overhead, even though first years were supposed to stay back in Risha. And when they get to Dreyfus, Theophany has a dagger at Mira's neck, and Tane is being held down by a bunch of wyvern. When Garrick gets there with Jack, Violet tells Theophany that they've fulfilled the deal and asks her to let Mira go. But Theophany tells her, that wasn't the deal. I said we'd let Dreyfus stand, not that your sister would live. First thing to learn about us is that we're careful with our words. And the second, we also lie. Then she slit Mira's throat.
Gosh.
Brennan rushes to mend her, and he's on the brink of burnout when Sloane and Dane show up to deliver a mysterious package to Violet with the seal of doom from Eric. But Violet's focused on Mira right now, so she just stuck it in her jacket and asked Sloane to help Brennan mend Mira. Dane offered to let Sloane siphon power from him to Brennan to save Mira, and after mending Mira, Brennan took her back to Orisha. Xaden and Sigel go to defend Dreyfus, and Bodhi stayed with Violet to face Theophany. But there's a problem. Tane isn't moving. So Violet asks Taryn to take him to safety, and he reluctantly agrees. With Bodhi and Violet alone on the field, Theophany comes back, and Bodhi tried to counter her power, but then Violet realized that she's not a lightning wielder. She's a storm wielder. Violet tells Bodhi to leave, and he refuses, but Queer swooped in and took him away. So now it's just Violet and Theophany. And Violet can't wield without Taryn. Now let's talk about how this ends.
Gosh.
Man, so let's get into our first impression, spoiler free. I honestly was really nervous going into these last few chapters. Like, I didn't know what to expect. Like, I know we've talked about a lot of predictions and theories, like going into all of our, like episodes and chapters and stuff, but I really did not know, like, how is this book going to end? So I really didn't know what to expect from these chapters. So I was nervous and like quite literally sitting on the edge of my seat because I didn't know what to expect every time we turned a page. And I felt like as I was reading, I was like gasping every other page. I was like, but yeah, no, these chapters were so amazing. We got some answers. Not that we liked them, but we got answers. And it left me honestly heartbroken. Like I don't even have a word besides heartbroken of how I felt with how this book ended. What did you guys think?
I don't know if I would say I was heartbroken. I think I was more disappointed. And not that it was a bad book, because it wasn't, but just disappointed with how it ended. Like, I obviously, when you know it's not the last book in the series and you know you're going to want more, I felt that solidly with reading this book. But going into this section, I had really high hopes because, to your point, Jen, like, we have talked about a lot of theories, a lot of predictions that I was hoping we would get at least some of the answers for. And I think that's probably what brought on most of my disappointment, is that we just got a resounding lack of answers. And so going in, I think for this section, I was the most anxious out of any other section just because I wanted all of these answers and did not get them.
Well, same here. I was so nervous going into this section because I was looking at the amount of pages we had.
I know.
That much, you guys. And we had like 10 times that many questions
Yes.
still left unanswered. So, I was trying to not have my hopes set too high, and as we were going through it, same as you guys, because we all read it together, I think we all had like several reactions through it. And I was so locked in. I kept going back and forth like, no, wait, that can't be right. And so I think I went through like all the stages of grief. So initially I was shocked at the ending, and then it took me a minute to just like really let it sit, and then I started to get angry.
Yep.
And then I started to get disappointed. And then I started bargaining. No, wait, like, it's gonna be okay, right? So anyway, this section took me on a ride.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Let's get into our deep dive of these chapters. I honestly, the way this next chapter started, I was a little bit disappointed. Not that I don't like Rhiannon, because I do, but I was kind of disappointed because of the way like chapter 60 ended. It's like, Violet was fighting Theophany. She talks about her being stronger, and I'm like, okay, great. Like, we're about to jump into this chapter. It's Rihanna's point of view. Maybe she's like gonna come in with this like big save or something. And I just, when I was reading Rihanna's point of view chapters, I was like, okay, I get a little more insight in her, but it just, to me, overall, didn't really fit with these chapters. Like, what did y'all think about that?
Well, so for those of you listening, like, you may think that we're incredibly intentional when we separate these sections out.
They just kind of came out this way.
And while I would love to claim that that's true, I think we probably just said, all right, there's 66 chapters, let's break them up as evenly as we can. Yeah. But it just so happened to work out that when this section started, this is the section that starts with all the different POVs.
Yes,
and so that worked out swimmingly well.
Yeah.
And so it just so happens the first one that we get is Rhiannon. And when I saw that, I immediately said, okay, well, in the end of Iron Flame, that's when we get the point of view from Xaden at the very end. And now we're doing it again at the end of this book. We're getting multiple points of view. Yeah. So I think that maybe, I have a theory that may be more of what we're going to see throughout book 4, not just at the end of book 4.
That'd be good, though.
Yeah, that we'll see multiple POVs. And Rhiannon's section, I thought it was the part that stuck out to me most in this chapter was really just the idea that we're getting a different point of view, and we're getting Rhiannon's point of view, and we can tell that she's a really strong leader, but even she has those moments where she doubts herself, and then her dragon kind of step in and like, no, I wouldn't have chosen you, similar to what Taryn does with Violet. But I like seeing that, and I love seeing Riddick in action in this chapter. I think that's the other section. He did have an awesome moment, and it was very fleeting, and it's toward the end of this chapter, but it is still really cool. I still think Riddick is a question mark in my brain.
No, he's not. Stop it.
I mean, I think it has the potential to happen. After the way this one ends, I'm less inclined on my Riddick theory, but I could still see how it could happen. But he did have a very cool moment at the end of this chapter.
He froze that wyvern. That was badass.
Okay, so when I read that part, I had to go back and like reread it because I was worried that he channeled. Because it mentioned something about the wyvern turning gray, which is usually a tell of channeling.
Yes, because it's draining.
Oh, fuck. Ethan was right. And I don't know if y'all remember me hearing like, what?
We said that a lot.
We did say that a lot in this section,
So we're like...
But like, I honestly was with you, Jen, on this section. I wish we had seen more of Rhiannon throughout the book. Yeah. Just because this point of view felt a little bit out of place, like you said. So I hope that we get to see more of her in the next couple of books as well.
I did, before we move on, like, I do like the fact that, like, she had to acknowledge that leader in her, kind of like what you were saying, Ethan. Like, I think all leaders kind of have those moments where they falter in their step, right? And so she had the moment where, like, she wanted to go save Violet, but she remembered, like, those are not orders. That's not what the priority is right now. And so, like, even one of the quotes that we wrote down was, you know, no matter how much Violet means to me, she's one life. And I love that her dragon also kind of like helped her kind of move past that. Like, acknowledging your fear for the lightning wielder does not compromise you. Ignoring does. Accept the emotion and just move on.
Yep.
Like, that was, I'm sure, a really hard moment for her. But as a leader, you kind of have to make some of those tough choices sometimes. You know?
Yeah, and to your point, I love how her dragon... We keep on saying her dragon because we don't know how to pronounce her dragon's name.
It's fiercest.
Yes, something like that. And I don't want to be offensive, so I'm not going to try and pronounce it. But I do love how that's like a common theme that all of these dragons seem to have for their riders. Is that they do care, and they're not putting them down. They're saying, like, no, recognize that emotion you have, like, feel it.
I feel like a lot of tough love.
Yes, feel it, but now we need to move on. And the riders seem to willingly accept that. I'd be like, oh my gosh, no, I need to feel this for forever. Let me just stay in my feels.
Right. So we're not dragon riders.
Yeah, I would have fallen off the parapet like 1 centimeter in.
Same. I actually don't think I'd make it up the stairs
up
that they have to get. So there's that. But no, finally, honestly, like, we get back to the battle between Theophany and Violet, and I was just like, okay, good. Like, what happens next? Because before, remember, she kept taunting her, just channel, join me, you know, like, the power's right there, just reach for it. And so I was like, okay, is this the moment that we all thought was going to happen, where she was going to channel and join Theophany, or is she going to be a badass and like kick her ass, right? So love this chapter, or it's not her final battle, I'm sorry, her battle with Theophany and her nearly like dying after Theophany tried to drain her. So like this was a great chapter because it just goes back to what we've been talking about with Violet. Like she's brave, she's smart, she's clever. She was like, how am I going to get off the field without my dragon and not die?
Yeah.
And she goes to the carcass of the wyvern and jumps on top so that Theophany doesn't drain her. What did you guys think about that?
Well, I thought it was interesting that Theophany told her at first. So she starts draining slowly. And then she's still talking to Violet. And she tells her, she's kind of like teaching her, the only way to counter this is to already be standing in an area that's drained. And like, they're just in an open field right now. But I felt like this was a moment for her scribe mind to shine.
Yeah.
Because there's wyvern carcasses. And so she realizes, oh, well, the wyvern's dead. Mm-hmm. So, that's how I'm going to get out of this. But I thought it was interesting that Theophany told her that, like, she didn't really want her to die at this point, I think maybe it was like a test for her.
Or maybe it's just her arrogance poking out. Because, like, she's so sure that Violet's going to channel. She's so sure that Violet's going to join them. I think it's just her arrogance, like, poking its head out. And it's like, no, she's going to eventually come to us. And this is how we're going to get that.
I don't know. I think this is a theme that we'll talk about several times in this episode. I felt that, because to me in this section, Theophany is starting to unravel. Like, she's starting to act desperately.
Yeah.
And I guess that's true.
And this is not something that we usually see from her. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if, like, maybe she's on some kind of time crunch that she's trying to get Violet to turn, mm-hmm. because it's not in her character that we've seen up until this point. Like, she's usually cool, calm, and collected. Mm-hmm. And so we don't see that here. Mm-hmm. Like, I think when Violet realizes, based off of Theophany's prompting, right, like, that she can jump on the carcass of the wyvern and not have to worry about being drained, mm-hmm. I had that thought too. I was like, well, why is she telling her? Because she knows Violet is smart, and she knows Violet's going to figure it out. Like, why is she even telling her? And then she finally jumps onto the wyvern carcass, and she's like, ooh, look who's clever, or something like that. And then I feel like that moment, right, I feel like in that moment, that's when she starts devolving a little bit, and she starts acting desperately. Because at that moment, it's not like 2 seconds later that she thinks it's Taryn picking her up.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But to her surprise, it's Sigale.
Which honestly, I was like, whoa, she came to her rescue?
Okay, to that point too, I feel like there's a lot of random things happening in these last couple of chapters.
Yep.
Like this whole encounter with Theophany, and she's acting more desperate. Mm-hmm. Rhiannon's point of view, mm-hmm. that's really random to me. It was
random, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Sigale enters the picture.
True.
And I'm like, where is all this coming from?
No.
But on her own.
She came on her own to go get her.
Well, she knew, right, that Taryn wasn't there, because obviously they can feel their bond.
Right.
And so she knew she was in trouble. Mm-hmm. So she knows she's never said that she hates Violet or that she dislikes her. She just doesn't go to her aid as often because she knows, like, yeah, exactly. She tolerates her, and it's for Xaden's sake, right?
Right.
And so I think that's maybe why she went, because she knew, like, if something happened to her, then Xaden would lose all control, and so that's kind of what it's kind of like what they're trying to hold on to right now is Xaden's control, right? And so she was like, oh fuck, like, let me go save this girl, because exactly.
I feel like her quote what she tells Violet is, it perfectly sums up the way she feels about her.
Yes.
She said, you are an inconvenience for which there is no adequate measurement. What a dragon way to read you down. Like, and then she said, but you have done an excellent job keeping the Maven occupied. So she had to, like, soften it with, like,
good job.
Like a little compliment. Like, thank you for doing something right. But overall, I hate you.
Okay, so that quote I also want to talk about, because I'm not sure if they've confirmed until now that Theophany was a maven. So at first I thought maybe she was a sage.
Oh, I mean, it's been
interesting.
mentioned.
I think you're right though. Like that, it's the first official confirmation. Yeah, because up until this point we've just assumed. Yeah.
But is it confirmation? Or is that just her saying that because we've all been talking about it?
Well, Sigel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I would assume that. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
That was just one thing I locked into. I was like, okay, so she's a maven. So what does that mean about like the rest of the hierarchy?
Yeah.
I thought that this next part was a really badass moment. And honestly, like, I love that Onyx Storm has been just Violet as a badass in general, right? She's had a lot of badass moments. We've talked about them. She's really come into her power. She's really come into her confidence. Like, I'm so glad we don't hear a lot of her whining like we did in Iron Flame. But, you know, Taryn finally returns. Like, Sigel, you know, takes Violet to Taryn, and they go and they kill like all these wyvern, and she just like strike after strike after strike after strike, and she just like knocked down maybe what, like 20 in one like second or something.
Yeah, there's that. This is a moment in this book and in this section. I also thought this was random, but I guess it was just used as a way to really just let us, the readers, know how many wyvern are actually there.
That's true too. Yeah.
Because this is a huge attack that's going on.
Yeah.
And so because Taryn, while she's, you know, doing her lightning striking, Taryn is like, all right, you got 7. All right, you got 4. All right, you got 8 more.
Right.
Like,
First strike, she was able to split into 10.
Yeah.
And take down 10, and then she just keeps doing it one after another.
Because it's just one strike, right? And her, like, she's able to branch out her bolts into like several, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different strikes.
Yeah.
So that's just amazing. I don't think they've mentioned her being able to split her lightning into more than 2.
Yeah, I was like, I think 2 has been the most she's done it with.
To start off with 10, and then she just keeps going.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy.
Well, and this just goes to show, too, just how powerful she is, right? Because this is her second year. Can you imagine how much more she's going to grow?
Yeah, and then I can't remember if it's in this section or later, but it's still like in the same moment. But because she's doing all this striking, you know, we always think with Violet fairly quickly after she starts using her power, because her power is through Taryn, that she is more likely to burn out even quicker.
Right.
And so she's reaching burnout during this whole time, right? Because like she keeps on mentioning that she's getting hot. She can even feel it on her insides, right? And Taryn tells her to drink water. But this is just another way that she's gotten stronger, because up until this point, like she would probably drink it and like immediately her body would start rejecting it. But no, she forces it down and forces it to stay down so she can like start cooling off her body internally and continue to strike, which is another, I guess, adds to the badassness of it, because she's like, no, we need to get this done. Like, and let's do it.
Well, Taryn tells her that too. He was like, no, keep it down. Like, we need to keep going. You cannot reach burnout. Yes, I love Taryn.
He tells her to like, you know, slow it down, and then like tells her to take the drink. And like, so this moment, you know, earlier we had the moment where she jumped on the carcass. She had that like clever moment. And then this moment I saw is like just a way for her to show off her rider heart. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like, man, killing all these wyvern, and I was just like so proud reading this.
Yeah.
And even Taryn was saying it with pride.
Yeah.
10, 7, 6.
Yeah.
Like he was getting excited too.
Yeah. We get to another point of view, and this one actually shocked me, because I feel like, well, actually going along with Rhiannon's, because I feel like we really haven't heard a lot from Rhi this book, besides the fact that she's been staying behind at Biscayeth as the leader, right? And so I feel like we haven't really heard enough from Imogen either, because she's been on the front as a third year because of how like thick the battle is right now, how thick the war is, right? And so it's like we really haven't seen her banter with Violet either, but we know Imogen as like this fearless, fierce warrior who really doesn't show as much emotion. And this chapter broke my heart. I mean, this is one of the chapters when I got to it, I was like, no, like, man, like, why would they do that to her?
Yeah, like why do good things happen to, or bad things happen to good people? Yeah, because reading, I enjoyed this chapter quite a bit.
Yes,
I thought it was random.
Really...
Just like Rhiannon's, I thought it was random. I was like, we're getting Imogen's point of view? Okay,
yeah.
I like it.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
out of nowhere, yeah. But I haven't had a question mark about Imogen. Like, I've known that she's pretty loyal.
Yeah.
And that was just completely confirmed with reading this section.
Yeah.
The way her thoughts into her brain, like, no, I have to do this for the team, basically. Like, she is so loyal. And I think that's probably what makes what contributes to this chapter being so heartbreaking at the end, because you know just her intentions are so true. Like, she just wants the best outcome for everyone. What stuck out to me most in this chapter was, I thought it was really cool to see a non-leader's perspective, because we got Rhiannon, she's a leader, right? We get Violet, even though she doesn't want to be a leader, she still acts like one.
Right.
And then we get Xaden's point of view as well, and he obviously acts as a leader.
Yeah.
So we always see them giving out the orders.
Yeah.
And in this one, there's just a very short moment where it's just one line, and Imogen is asking her dragon for orders.
Yeah.
She's like, what are the orders? And of course, she needs to ask her dragon because the dragons are in the know with each other. But I thought that was so cool. It was such a clear juxtaposition as to how they operate.
Yeah, true, man. So at one point, they're encountering a sage.
I think it's just dark wielders.
A dark
Honestly,
wielder,
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we don't know. But Dane's there, and there's a dark wielder who wields fire.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good.
She turns the fire into stone.
Was it the fire?
Not the
shield.
She grabs Dane's
The
shield.
Yeah, she turns the shield into stone to shield them from the fire that's coming at them.
Yep.
And saves them.
Yep.
So, like, we thought that Imogen's only signet at this point was
wiping memories.
Memory wiping.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But she's got a second signet. It's confirmed. And then Dane was like, what the fuck was that?
And she also said that she didn't want to do it. Like, she was talking internally to herself, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to do this in front of Atos, because then it's gonna show that she does have a second signet.
Right.
And I feel like that's gonna kind of open up a lot of, like, well, who else has a second signet?
Well,
what is your
Dane
second
saw
signet? Like,
Garrick,
yes, he saw that too.
and now he's seen Imogen
Okay.
do that.
Right, so question, wasn't there a moment earlier in this book where Dane also sees someone else's second signet, and he's like, we're going to talk about whatever the
Garrick.
fuck that was.
That's what she said.
Garrick.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay. So I'm wondering if that is some kind of theme, like, is Dane going to be important later on just because this is now the second person that he's been in?
He's just a scribe mind as
Right.
Violet.
Yes.
But
like right next to her. So
that's dangerous for Xaden.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things dangerous for Xaden right now, but that's dangerous because nobody knows about that.
I think it's dangerous for the
Violet.
marked ones.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, because Liam had a second signet, Garrick has one, Imogen clearly has one. Bodhi says he doesn't have one, but now I'm
I
thinking,
feel
like,
they all do.
yeah, and they're all keeping it
Because
secret.
Even asked Imogen point blank at one time if
She has
had
Bodhi.
one. Oh, was it not Imogen? Well,
Yeah.
anyway.
But she does ask
so,
somebody.
So, like, now, even if they said they haven't, they don't. I think they all do.
We
Yeah.
can't trust what they're saying.
Yeah, and Bodhi may be under the impression that he really doesn't have one, but maybe he secretly does, and he's just not aware of it.
Or he
Like-
does have one and doesn't want to tell anybody. 'Cause he
True,
can't-
but I'm saying, like, it's very possible that he could very well be telling the truth from his perspective, that
True,
he
yeah.
doesn't really think that he has one, but he very well could.
Well, and it goes back to what Xaden was talking to Violet about, but the fact that Garrick has a second signet is the fact that the dragons found them because of like who their family was and their
Yeah.
lineage, right? And so I think that all the marked ones dragons did that, and I think they were there to protect them, and that's how they were able to get and survive in the Riders Quadrant, because we know that if you don't bond a dragon, like, you're kind of fucked. So
Yeah.
but
So that was a cool moment.
that was a cool moment that led to an event, like, that led to just a sad moment. I was so upset
Right.
about what happens next, because I'm like, why would you do that to her?
Right.
She's such a good writer.
I
Oh
know.
my goodness.
So we're setting the scene here that after Imogen uses her second signet to, block Dane and herself from the fire that the Dark Wielder emits from his staff, Dane, is quick to duck out behind the shield after that and throws a dagger, and the Dark Wielder desiccates. So now there's two other Dark Wielders in this tower that they're at. Dane says, I'll go get this one, you go get that one. And now this leads up to Imogen and her sad moment. So
Quinn can astro project. And so Quinn was using herself to distract the Venom. And I think the tower had weapons, right? I think that's what she was protecting.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get to the armory.
yeah, and there was a family, or there was a group of people, a family or a group of people.
Oh, she was getting the people out. She was
Out.
getting the
Yeah.
civilians
Yes.
out. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Quinn was projecting herself in different areas of the tower, trying to protect these people, trying to get them to safety. And I know they were trying to get some of these daggers out too. And Imogen is running towards Quinn because she knows she's there, so she wants to save her best friend, right? Mm-hmm. And so she gets to her and sees that a Venom is about to attack her, only to show that they actually attacked the projection. And so she, for a moment, has this like moment of relief, and she's like, "Oh, good, okay, she's safe." Yeah. And then the Venom.
Multiple images.
Yeah.
She was projecting like a few of herself.
There's multiple Quins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the Venom finds the real one because Quinn tried to sneak up on it to kill it, and Imogen ends up killing it right at the moment that the Venom kills
Quinn.
Quinn.
She threw a dagger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
At the same time that
And
Quinn
then,
was stabbed.
Quinn has been a big part of the story. I mean, she's been in every book, in all these chapters, along with Imogen, and like they're best friends. Like I could not imagine standing there watching one of you guys like die right in front of me. And this is a moment where we get to see vulnerable Imogen and see her break down, and it's just like, no, like you have to stay with me. Like you have to stay with me. And so she tells her like Imogen or Quinn.
Yeah.
And he's literally in the next scene, right? Like, and so that's pretty clear foreshadowing. It's clear. It leads us to believe that it's Garrick because he is like the next one that enters on the scene.
Right. Yeah.
She even mentions his beautiful eyes.
Yes, hazel eyes.
Yes, she does say that.
I love when they throw that in there because you know that's how they're feeling.
Yeah. But the most heartbreaking part of this whole exchange is Imogen's vulnerability. As she's holding Quinn. Mm-hmm. Quinn is dying, and she says, "You're my best friend, and I love you. Please stay." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so sad," because we never get any kind of statement of emotion, period,
ever
from Imogen. She is so she is the epitome of cool, calm, and collected, right? Like you can't see any emotion on her face, and she finally breaks down here, and she says that, "I think that is the saddest line. You're my best friend, and I love you. Please stay."
I'm telling you, I don't know what I would do if I was right there seeing one of you guys dying. Like there's just
complete breakdown.
Yeah, it's like I'm tearing up just thinking about it.
I don't think I could walk.
I know, and they had to leave because the Venom were draining the tower.
Mm-hmm. Right. Comes to tell her it's like they're draining the tower. We have to go.
Yeah.
So they have to go. I love Imogen, and she got really close to Violet in Iron Flint because she was training her.
Right.
And we didn't get that much from her in Onyx Storm, and I wish we had.
Yes.
Because it felt like it came out of nowhere to get her point of view at this point.
Right.
And while it was heart-wrenching and emotional, and I felt all those feelings, it kind of landed a little hollow for me just because we hadn't seen her so much.
I can see that.
And then there was that one moment just before this section where Violet is struggling with her runes and Quinn helps her out, and we hadn't.
That's
Quinn,
right. Yeah.
I think at all. In this book,
right.
So
she's a third year,
we were
so
just randomly reminded that she was around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they kill her in the next section. I wish it hadn't been that way. I wish we had seen a little bit more of both of them at this point.
Agreed.
I like the way, I don't know about but the way it ends is with Imogen after Garrick takes him away, distance wields, and she's looking up at the sky and sees all the wyverns still there. It's Violet took down so many, and there's still so many more left.
Yep.
And so I think that goes back to what Ethan said earlier, where the author, Rebecca, is trying to tell us, this is a huge attack, and it's still happening. It's not slowing down. And so really the only chance for them to survive is to kill Theophany, because I feel like she's the one that kind of made all these wyvern. And if you kill the person who created them, the wyvern also died. So that's where we get into this next chapter, which... Holy shit! I know. We get back into Violet's point of view, and she's still in the middle of a battle with Theophany, and so we see that Theophany's using like her tornado to kind of lure Violet and Taryn in, and Violet loses her conduit and she like starts panicking because that's what she uses to help her aim and strike true, right? And so she's like, oh, I can't do it without it. And Taryn's like, no, you have to, like, or we're all dead.
It was a piece of hail that shattered it.
Yeah, from the storm. Hold on. Okay. Oh, that felt so good.
Have you been holding that?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I probably look weird on the video. I'm like,
So she panics and thinking like, that's what I need to like to aim and to strike and to kill. And Taryn's like, no, you're gonna do it anyways because we have to.
Yeah.
We're gonna die if we don't. Yeah. And so thankfully she does. But before we get to that point, like Theophany uses a net to trap Taryn. Like when they get closer, I was like, what the fuck? What kind of net are they using to trap this big dragon?
Yeah.
Like, what?
another random thing. And I was like, where did these come from?
Yeah, where did this big ass net come from?
I feel like we should have known about this at some point or another. Like, hey, this has been used against dragons before in the past.
And
like,
they would need like a big contraption to
Keep them down.
throw those nets.
Yeah, that
into the
too.
sky.
Yeah.
Bring down a dragon as big as Taryn, because he's one of the biggest dragons next to the only other bigger dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, how did this come out of nowhere?
I know. When I saw that, I was like,
notice this?
a
net? And I was like, and how does a tiny little net hold a big dragon down? Like, what did she use to keep it down? Like, did she use her
she said there was
Like stone
weights
weights.
the size
Okay.
of desks.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
so
like-
this thing is huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
That was, to me, I was just like, what just happened there? How did we even trap Taryn in the first place? Like, I feel like they're fast and they're aware for them to be caught so off guard, but I guess that's why she used
They
a
were trying to get
tornado.
around the tornado actually falling against a cliff, similar to the first time they ran into Theophany at Newhall. And then she uses the moment where they're distracted falling off a cliff
Yeah.
to get him with this net. It's crazy.
Well, so in the moments of her trying to get out and trying to, like, she remembers that she has a dagger that's been, like, that has runes weaved into it. And so she's able to use that, and she gets them for free because of the runes. And I was like, okay, so...
She gets...
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that, like, the runes are helping, this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, I feel like the runes are, like, subtly thrown in there, and I think they're going to be, like, a huge lifesaver later. I mean, clearly here, they saved them, right?
Yeah.
And so as she's getting out, she feels something in her jacket, and she remembers about the note in the package that Arca left them. And so she pulls that out, and I was just like, what a random time to, like, pull out, oh, let me read this note that's in my jacket, when she could have read it when it was given to her, when nothing else was happening.
Like, she really didn't have a role to play in mending Mira. She was just staring at it.
Yeah, like, you could have read this. Yeah.
Well, it's so...
But honestly, it happened at a perfect time, so it's...
So I guess it happened when it was meant to happen, because you probably wouldn't have connected the dots at that point.
I get so... not frustrated. I read this part, and even when Eric first gives her the package, I was like, this is so, again, like, I hate saying this word over and over again, but it's so random. Like, he just literally delivered a UPS package and said, hey,
with Sloan.
Here's your package.
Here you go, you know, priority delivery. But I was like, it's literally a UPS package.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what? This is how she's gonna get the life-saving device, you know, that she needs, because this turns into, like, she reads a note. What did the note say? Do y'all have it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For when you lose yours, strike in the dark, Violet. And then it came with another note from the priestess that I guess gave it to him to give to her. A gift from one servant of Dune to another. I must warn you, only those touched by gods should wield their wrath. I will pray to her that she need not use it to avoid reacquainting herself with the other who curries her favor. Her path is still not set. And so in that package is a dagger made of marble, which comes from the Temple of Dune itself.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is where the gods and everything starts coming into play. Because remember, I was like, there has to be a reason why we're talking about all these temples. There has to be a reason why all these Isle kingdoms favor different gods and goddesses. Like, it has to come into play later. And the fact that Theophany used to be a priestess of Dune it starts to all tie in together here. And I really do like that we get some sort of answer in there at least.
Yeah.
But of course, then it starts opening up more questions as far as like, who's the other who curries her favor? Like, who are we talking about there? Like, what does that mean? Is she talking about Theophany as other, or is she talking about as another god that she has favor with?
Yes.
Because right now, Violet has favor with Dune because of the fact that she was dedicated.
Right.
So.
Yes, and I think that's probably, I don't know, I would love to hear what other people took away from that little note, because even the three of us, when we first read it, did not all agree about what it meant.
Yes, that's
because I think you two meant like just the other who curries her favor meant Theophany, which it very well could, right? But I myself took that as like, oh, well, maybe we're talking about like if someone can be dedicated or touched by Dune, I've always, whatever. If someone can be dedicated or touched by that goddess, like maybe the other gods are maybe need a champion, so to speak. That's what it gives, right?
Yeah.
Like these are champions of each individual god or goddess, and Violet just happens to be the one for Dune. But now, or this cryptic note said the other who curries her favor. And to me, I was like, well, maybe the other god that we hear a lot about is Malik. I was like, well, maybe there's two sides of this, Dun's side and Malik's side. Or the other that curries her favor could be, Xaden or Berwyn. Like we don't know.
I know.
I did read it as Theophany.
Right.
Because remember the reading or whatever that Mira quoted to her was that she still had paths to choose.
Yeah.
And that's why her dedication wasn't complete. And even in the note, she says like she still has paths to choose.
Yeah.
And so I read it as like the other path is following Theophany and channeling and turning.
Right. Okay. See, and that's like another thing that I really didn't think about while I was reading this. I just kept thinking like she's talking about Theophany. This is your key to destroying this other person who curried the favor of Dune as well at one point, right?
Yeah. So
that's
like
how
3 different
that's how I took it when I was reading that. But I'm like, okay, finally she opens it. She gets it, and then she realizes, or Taryn is still trapped, and he also realizes that Sigel is under the same trap.
Yes.
And so now we have Taryn and Sigel trapped in this net, and they're separate, they have these separate fights going on. And so Violet is trying to distract Theophany by, like asking her about Temple, and she goes, she keeps trying to distract her, and she asks, do you miss Umbriel, and do you yearn for Temple? And so that kind of like throws Theophany off a little bit. And I was wondering, why would that throw her off? Like,
well, it seemed like she was, I think at one point she mentions that her expression was almost like an expression of longing. So she probably still does feel that pull towards Temple, but she's not allowed into Temple anymore.
Okay.
Yes.
Because she is Venom.
Right.
So like she almost feels like this mourning or this loss of not being able to go back to Temple, but she has this.
Yes, that's what I pulled from that too. Yeah. Yes, and we realized based off of that she's pulled, but she can't walk into one because she's Venom, right? Then that leads us to the idea that Violet has that this dagger could be really useful, right? Because it comes from a temple of Dun, which is like garlic for vampires, apparently.
Right. Her responses. So when she asked Theophany if she still feels the need to go to Temple, her answer was actually what basically gave Violet the answer to kill her.
Right.
Because she responds, do you know the pain of never being allowed to return, of knowing that it would sever the very thing that kept me untouchable all of these years?
But I have a question about that. So like it says the very thing that's kept me untouchable all these years. Does that mean that she's been so powerful because she was a priestess?
That's what I think.
Like, does she have the power of a goddess, and like that's how she's able to become such a powerful Venom?
Right. One other thing that Theophany said during this encounter is, why serve a god when you can be one? Yes. And remember, at this point, there have been 3 things that she is like untouched by that should have hurt her. So Andarna tried to burn her with her fire. Xaden tried to use her shadows against her, and she was able to easily swat them away. And then Bodhi wasn't able to counter her.
That's true.
Her storm.
Yeah.
That's what I think she means by untouchable. Being a priestess made her untouchable.
God, yeah.
But that's also the only thing that can destroy her.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why Eric sent her that marble dagger.
I was just going to say, before we get to that final, like, showdown between Violet and Theophany, Violet starts to, Violet starts to piece together what Eric's signet is.
Yep.
And so, and honestly, I kind of called it, or I think we all called it.
I think we all called it.
yeah.
We knew it was something like mind-based
Yes.
or knowledge-based.
I knew he was hiding it for the first of all. I knew he was hiding his signet. I
Yeah.
was like, and if he's hiding his signet, then it's a really dangerous, powerful one. And so she realizes that Eric's signet is precognition,
Yes.
which is even more powerful than Melgren's signet, because he can only see the outcomes of battles. Eric can see everything.
Yeah.
He can see the outcomes of anything.
Yeah. He's
And
a
so,
true precog.
yes, and so he saw this happening. He gave this dagger to Violet for a reason,
Very moment.
and tells him to strike in the dark, which is what is about to happen.
Yes. So this goes back to like your theory that you had a while back that, Eric is sus, right? And he was, but just because he was hiding something.
Right, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that meant maybe he was the rat, but like still, he was definitely hiding something
Yep.
so big. This makes him more powerful than even Melgren.
Yeah.
You know, so like, this is a huge signet. Like, there's so much that this means.
Yep.
Like, I'm excited to read more about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he risks his life to save Violet and
Yeah.
everybody else because he's making it known that he knew that.
Now I'm not questioning his motives. Like, I know firmly where he stands. Because if not for that, like, what would have happened in this battle?
Right. And so I love the way it ends. So Violet tells Theophany, "You were never just Venom. Dune is a wrathful goddess to high priestesses who turns their backs on her and then kills her."
Yes. But she kills her while the field is completely dark.
Right. God.
Rewind a little bit.
Let's go
Rewind.
back.
Yes, that is a big moment.
I'm so sorry because it goes back to what Eric said too.
Yeah.
So, so just as Taryn is getting free, the field turns completely dark. She sees the shadows coming from where Xaden is standing, and so obviously we all know this is Xaden, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so she fears the worst, though. It's like if he is emanating this much power, it's because he's channeled again, right?
Yeah.
And
The whole
field
turns
is completely dark, and then
Yep.
that's when it clicks to her, like, this is my moment to strike. This is what Eric said I had to do, strike in the dark, right? So she uses her lightning for a second to get a flash of where Theophany is. Theophany has her back to her, and then that's when she tells her, "You were never just Venom. Dune is a wrathful goddess to high priestesses who turn their backs on her," and then kills her.
Yes. And not only that, but again, this is kind of a desperate moment that we see from Theophany again. And not because she thinks she's about to die, but because she's allowing herself to be so distracted because there's another surprise visitor in this chapter. We get Andarna. Andarna comes back. And so, yeah, because when the shadows come, the shadow blast is so powerful that it does knock Theophany off. So shadows are able to affect her in this way because now Xaden is channeling, not using it from his dragon. And so the shadow knocks her pretty much on her ass, and she falls against something, but it's not against a rock face. It's against what appears to be just a black wall, but we realize that it's Andarna. She ran into Andarna, and she allows herself to be distracted by Andarna. She's like, ooh, Irid, ooh, pretty. Like she's
wants
just
to touch her.
awestruck by this Irid.
Yeah.
And that's when Violet uses her lightning to see where she is, and then that's when she goes in for the kill. And at first, Theophany laughs at her. She's like, oh, you're cute. What did you think was going to happen? But then she looks down and she sees, oh no, I'm actually bleeding. How did this happen? And that's where, like, your point about her being so arrogant really comes through.
Yeah.
She's like, you can't hurt me. You just hurt me. How?
Yeah.
And then she desiccates.
Yeah.
She didn't realize that it was marble from the temple.
I feel like before we get into Xaden's point of view, I just felt like Theophany's death was so underwhelming because this whole book was about how powerful Theophany is. Like how much she taunts Violet, how much she keeps pushing her to go to her side, how sure she is that Violet's going to join her. and keeps sending her all these like notes saying like, I can get you anytime I want, even tries to kill Mira. All of these power plays only to like die like that. I mean, I guess I'm glad she's dead, but it just felt underwhelming to me.
I'll be honest, like, I really liked this villain.
Me too.
I enjoyed this book, and I'm sad that she's gone.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's a good point.
She made this book for me.
Yeah, she was a solid villain.
Yeah.
And so interesting and mysterious, you know? So, like, hopefully we get some more, like, even if it's a retrospective of, like, her history and her past. Like, I hope that's not it for Theophany.
I feel like it was as underwhelming as Cersei's death.
Oh, man. Yeah.
She was a huge villain, and then the way she died, I'm like, that's how she dies?
But, you know, I guess for me it kind of leads into another underwhelming revelation chapter.
Yeah, you didn't like this.
I did not
thought
like
it was
this.
big. So we switch over to Xaden's point of view, which, oh, please give me more Xaden. Because I want to read every chapter needs to be from his point of view, okay? I just love Xaden. But so as Violet is trying to free Taryn from where he's trapped, you know, Xaden is fighting his own battle and trying to free Sigel, right? So we're at that point now. So we've gone over to where Xaden and Sigel are stuck over here, and it's Berwyn that's with them. So Violet is with Theophany, Xaden is with Berwyn, and so now we get to see a little bit of Berwyn because we've heard about him, and it turns out he's the sage that Xaden fought at Biscayeth. And so in this moment, Xaden is talking about how much he cannot hurt Berwyn. He was like, I can hurt Berwyn as much as I can hurt Violet. And he talks about the bond that's between them. And I was just so angry. I'm like, this guy has a hold on Xaden. It's pissing me off because Xaden doesn't want it. He doesn't want this bond. And it's there and he can't fight it. And so he says, the bond between Violet and me is a kind of magic that has no explanation. The bond between Berwyn and me is a kind that should never exist.
Yep.
He knows it's there, but doesn't want it, you know?
So, like, this is why, if you remember in the section before this, when Violet was able to recognize when she was in Xaden's dream, she tried to get it to, like, shake him out of it.
Right.
And Berwyn told her, he can't because of me.
Yep.
And that's what he meant. They're bonded in this weird way.
Yeah.
I hate that for him.
Berwyn is his teacher.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's tethered to Berwyn.
Yeah. And so Ethan doesn't like this point where we finally find out who's been feeding all the information to the Venom, and it's Panchek.
Either.
Oh, okay, I'm not saying I loved it. I'm just saying it makes sense. Panchek is a commandant, so he's high up there. He's like right below Melgren. So the fact that like he's been feeding all that information, that's a huge betrayal to Navarre.
Yeah.
To Navarre, I think it's such a wasted opportunity to make the story even bigger. I was like, Panchek, who gives a damn about Panchek? I could care less about Panchek. No, like if you're going to, no, I read that and I was like, this is what I've been waiting for.
It was literally like womp womp.
Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking, because Xaden was saying like, why would he do that? Oh, now he's calling him my brother. He thinks he's my brother. I was thinking like, oh my God, is it Garrick? Is it Bodhi?
Yeah.
I was ready for this to be someone within their inner circle.
Okay.
And I was ready for my heart to be ripped out.
Well,
yes.
So
okay, thank you for verbalizing that.
You guys know that this whole time I've been thinking all of upper leadership
yes.
in any way.
Yes. So this just confirmed it for you.
Yes, but like I wanted it to be someone close to them. I wanted it to be Brennan. I wanted it to be Bodhi or Garrick.
Yeah.
Anybody that would break my heart.
Doesn't mean it can't still happen.
I'm here to be tormented.
But totally to that point, I think Brennan still very much has the potential to be
still think
like
so too.
a huge
But
revelation later.
Anyways, Panchek is the rat. He's Venom himself.
Yep.
It's a betrayal to Navarre, even if it's not a betrayal to Xaden and Violet. It's still a betrayal to Navarre because he's high up there. So that was, I think, a huge, like, holy shit to me. Okay? But there was something that Berwyn said that I was like, what's going on here? So Panchek pretty much taunts Berwyn, says, oh, you can't hurt me. You can't hurt me. I'm the one that gives you access to your son. And then Berwyn goes, oh, it's okay. I have another. What the like, is he talking about Jack?
That's what I thought. I thought he was. So I think that they've been holding Jack. We've been thinking, like, why are they holding Jack at Biscaya?
That's true.
What?
Yeah.
Why are they keeping him alive? I think he's been holding Jack at Biscaya.
And giving him access to Berwyn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Keeping him away from Berwyn. But Berwyn says, I have another. He means Xaden.
Yeah.
Right?
I would think so. That's kind of what it confused me at first. I was like, another son. I was like, man, she's being very vague, very intentionally here. But I would also assume Jack.
So let's move on to Xaden's desperation. So he sees Sigel hurt, and so he even says, like, you can summon me, you can call on me, but you cannot hurt her. And he's talking about Sigel, right? Mm-hmm. And so he does what he's been holding off on, and he channels an ungodly amount of like power.
Yeah.
And so that's where all those shadows come from whenever, we're talking about Violet scene. And he says, in my final act of resistance, I become the very thing I despise. Maybe it's good that I can't feel a single damn thing. And then he also says, my soul departs like pieces of ash from a fire, flaking free and drifting away as power consumes the space it once inhabited. I'm no longer on the ice. I'm the ice. And I'm like, he has fully turned into, like, he has fully leaned into the venom, right? And then in his way to trying to free Sigel, because when he does put the shadows out, like the net is free, he kills several wyvern, he like knocks Berwyn down, knocks like whatever, and then knocks Theophany down to help Violet too. But as he's channeling, as he's losing completely himself over to this power, Violet says down the bond, I love you. And he like holds on to that. And he said, I love her. That is the emotion I cling to, the fire of pure power burning at the feeling's edges. And I know if I take it any further, it will be the next and final piece to float away. I bare my teeth and yank my hand from the ground, gasping for a full breath as my heart thunders. So still holding on to that one piece of humanity in him, and that's his love for Violet.
Yeah. That's how that chapter ends.
Well, one thing before we get to the final chapter, I don't understand how Berwyn killed Panchek's dragon.
Oh, yeah, with
like,
a dagger.
Just a dagger, and the dragon just desiccated. Like,
yeah. So normally, up until this point, we haven't seen anyone dessicate other than Vinin.
Yeah.
And now Berwyn has this magic little dagger that Panchek, obviously traitor, talking to Berwyn, and Berwyn is like, brandishing these daggers in front of Panchek. Panchek's like, put those away. We both know that you're not going to hurt me. And so he's like, you're right. And so he goes over to Panchek's dragon, like, boom, stabs the dragon with this dagger. And even Xaden is thinking to himself, how the heck did he just kill this dragon with a dagger? Yeah. Because the dragon, as soon as the dragon is stabbed, it desiccates.
Yeah. So, final chapter, this is where we all were like, are we missing pages? Like, what the fuck? How did that just end this way? What the heck? Oh my gosh. So,
this is the part I was mad at.
Oh my God. So, Violet wakes up. It's 3 a.m. She's in the middle of like, she's just in the middle of a field or something, right? And like, Brennan is running to her and is like, hey, what's wrong? What's happening? And Violet's like super confused as to what's going on. She doesn't know where she's been. She doesn't know how she ended up that way because her last memory is of her killing Theophany. And so she, Brennan a writer comes in and starts like giving off an update to Brennan. And apparently like several are dead, including some dragons and some riders. But there are 4 riders missing. And among those missing are Xaden and Garrick. So I was like, it's like, okay. So Garrick and Xaden are missing. I don't know who the other 2 are, which I'm guessing could be Bodhi, because Imogen is there. So she's there with Violet. And so they're getting this update, but he also says 2 things that I'm just like, holy shit. One, that the wards are up at Drathis. Didn't know they had a ward stone. Didn't know that they were trying to put the wards up there. Does that mean more Ariads are back? Or did Indarna fire that up? But she couldn't have. Yeah, because she already fired it up at Biscaya. So that's one huge question mark. The next one is that there are 6 dragon eggs missing. And so I think Xaden took them to Umbriel, because remember, they're the ones that wanted the dragon eggs, as like his last act of a good guy to like get Umbriel to come and help, because the war is long from being over. Like, this is not the end. We're not done here. Just because Theophany's dead doesn't mean anything.
There's still Berwyn.
There's still Berwyn, and there's still, I think, even more. Yeah. And so I think that was his last act, was the 6 dragon eggs. He took them. He took them to Umbriel. I guess Garrick was with him because he's always with him anyways. Like, and so we get to the final part where Violet, like, something falls out of Violet's hand, and it's a parchment, and Brennan opens it, and it's a marriage license. And so she and Xaden are married because she notices the emerald ring on her finger.
Yep.
And I was like, they got married and they didn't, like, I missed it. Like, I wanted this whole, like,
It's actually like a fairy tale.
I know, but for me it should have been.
I know we missed mine.
So they're married, and the note says, don't come after me. It's yours now. Or she's yours now. Which means Xaden is gone. What I feared would happen, happened. He went full Edward on us, guys. Yep.
Well, then Brennan asked her, where have you been? And she asked, how long have I been gone? 12 hours was his response.
Yeah.
Imogen's there, and she's like, Violet is thinking, like, her memory is hazy.
Yeah.
Like you said, the last thing she remembers
was killing Theophany.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got these 12 hours missing from her memory, and then she asks Imogen what happened.
Yeah.
And she says, well, you asked me to.
Oh! We turn the page, and there's nothing there.
I was turning my page, like, back and forth, and I was, like, seeing if my pages were stuck together.
Not only is she married, she's now the Duchess of Tarandor. Now she's in charge because obviously Xaden's gone and doesn't plan on returning. Doesn't want anybody going after him. Took some riders and eggs with him. And I know why she asked Imogen to wipe her memory, because she knew that if she remembered it, she would go after him.
Yes.
So it's like, this is the only way to not go after him and to honor his wishes. No, like, no, this kid, like, I knew there was a lot of foreshadowing happening about them getting married. Like, I knew that was going to happen. I knew it happened a lot. I talked about, he called her his consort. Like, it happened so much in this book. So we knew that was coming. That was not a surprise to me. It was how it happened, and the fact that now she's the Duchess and in charge, and, like,
And he's gone.
and he's gone. Fucking Edward Cullen. So, Onyx Storm theories. Did we get it right? We've speculated, we've debated, and now it's time to face the truth. In our next episode, we're breaking down every theory and prediction we've made throughout our Onyx Storm discussions. Did we crack the code or completely miss the mark? Plus, while we don't know when book 4 is coming, that won't stop us from diving into our newest theories and boldest predictions. Who will rise, who will fall, and what shocking twist could be on the horizon. Don't miss this one. Your favorite conspiracy board is back in action.